Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to discuss the 5 biggest culture shocks I faced moving from the United States all the way to Seoul, South Korea. And yeah, just some of the crazy things I've come across that's unique to the South Korean culture. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying, hey, this was different than what I experienced in the US. And here's my thoughts and observations on it. Obviously, someone went from South Korea to the US, they would find some things are quite different and they would be culture shocked by that. It's just how different countries operate. So I'm going to outline these things for you so maybe you have something or you know what to expect when you set foot here in South Korea and just give you a little insight on that. And if you've been to South Korea before and you experienced these, let me know which one of these culture shocks really resonated with you. Now, number one, I would say is the impatience or hustle or aggressive culture that is seemingly occurring in the country of South Korea. I understand that this can vary by region and vary by city. Seoul is known to be the young professional, hustle, fast go city of the country, almost like the New York City plus LA of South Korea. And it's different in some areas, but it seems overall, and I've been to quite a few regions in South Korea, things generally happen fast here. Service is quick. People are on the go and on the move. It's not uncommon to see people literally run to cross traffic lights if there's a walking situation, right? Okay. Or you get in an elevator, people will close it so quickly. Like I've had people close elevator doors in on me as I'm walking because people are so quick to hit the close button. Overall, there's just a much more aggressive go culture here that even if you've been to urban areas in the US will be a bit of a culture shock. It's just on another level here. And I've had some people explain to me that it feeds into part of the peninsula mindset in South Korea where for a long time they've been surrounded by, countries that were adversarial to them, or they've constantly been fighting for their survival. They've had civil wars. And there is just much more of a, us against the world vibe. We need to work hard. We need to, do it so that our country survives. And although it's relaxed a lot, I would say in recent years, there still is a lot of that permeates the culture. It's very competitive. Things need to get done quickly and people want things done very efficiently and well. Even the service workers at places like convenience stores or restaurants or fast food places take their jobs very seriously. They're very quick. They don't move slow or look demotivated like it is in the US, and everything is just kind of at a very high standard of excellence, and that can take some getting used to. From someone who, comes from a rural suburban area in the United States where things overall are just not in that big of a hurry, moving to one of the largest cities in the entire world where everything is go from metros to cars to food. Everything has a self-checkout kiosk so you can get your food absolutely as fast as possible. It is just a different vibe. It's a different feel. And even when I've been to urban centers like New York or Seattle or LA in the United States, things never move this fast. It's kind of on a bit of a different level here. People are never moving that fast. And for example, people will bump into you on the subways and it's not considered rude. That's just how things work. People, pack themselves into smaller places. And so it's a bit of an adjustment to get used to such a fast-paced way of life, even for an urban center. And I'd say the second biggest culture shock from living in South Korea is the elder or hierarchical system of the culture as a whole. And I'm not saying this is good or bad. I know people here in the country have things they like about it, some grievances about it. I'm just simply commenting about my experiences on it, but age makes a big difference here. And so if you're older, you are shown more respect. You have certain duties that the younger people are owed to the older people, and the old people also owe some duties to the younger people. So it's just a very important dynamic here in terms of the hierarchical culture. I would say South Korea is still very patriarchal as well. And so if you're an elder man, there's just a different level of respect that you are given from younger people. And that's just the way it goes here. For example, when I go out to eat, every time you sit down at the table to eat, it's the young person or the youngest person's job to get out all the utensils and pour all the different small water cups and get all that stuff prepared for the meal. It's not the older person's job. However, there's a culture here where if you go somewhere with people who are younger than you, it's your responsibility to actually pay for their meals or pay for their coffee. It's heavily ingrained in the culture. So in a way, the younger generation takes care of the older generation by doing some of the menial tasks, and the older generation also pays it back in respect. So it's not just this thing where like the younger generation is enslaved to the older generation. I don't see it that way. I see it as a, both the older and the younger people have different responsibilities in the relationship in the society as a whole. And it's kind of cool. Does it get over the top at times where people are like, will ask you your age before they even ask you your name so they know where to fit you in the ranking of the hierarchy? Yeah, it can get a little obnoxious, especially coming from the US, where that's just not as much of the culture there. Everything is much more people pretending that they're all kind of on the same level. No one's above anybody else. It's more egalitarian that way. Don't pretend that you're going to be able to take this mindset here, because that's just not how things work. Older people expect to be treated with respect. You even have to modify how you talk in their language with how you end certain words to show your respect level. So that is very important. Make sure you show respect to your elders, and they will actually show respect and give back to you as well. So it's a give and take situation. Both parties have to be a part of it. So just learn to try and integrate in that way. And the third biggest culture shock of living in South Korea is the social nature of things as a whole. South Korea is very much a family-oriented, social-oriented country, I would say. Even going out to eat, you can't eat at many places as one person. I tried early on in my trip, and most restaurants only will take groups of people. There's a lot of communal things, communal activities that are part of this culture that makes a single foreigner person, makes it kind of difficult for them to crack or fit in, as groups are very important here. This is in stark contrast to Japan, which I visited earlier, where that's very much like a single atomized culture, I would say, where things are maybe built a little more for single people. In South Korea, things are built for groups, although you can do things on your own, of course. But things like eating, doing group activities, trips, all seem to be geared towards a group or communal aspect, which is very different than the US. The US is very much a individualistic, you're trying to achieve your thing society, which has its pluses and minuses. But Korea, I would say, is almost the opposite. It's about communal and the society working as a team towards a common goal. So yeah, it's just a very different mindset than what I'm used to. And next, the fourth biggest culture shock that I've experienced in South Korea is how quickly trends move through this country. South Korea is very much a trend-based nation where people will stand in line for hours just to get into the new restaurant in Seoul, try the new experience, do the new thing, buy the new item, wear the new kinds of clothes. Trends move freaking fast here. The US is so big and vast that it takes a couple of years for new trends to kind of come up and get churned through and then spit back out, and then something new come through. But in South Korea, because it's such a tight nation, the population density is so tight, there's so many urban centers, like the trends are completely different from what I remember a year ago when I visited in February of 2024. I remember everything people were wearing, what they were eating, what was the big, songs at that time. Well, in a year, it feels like almost a completely different country culturally when I show up, and certainly miles different from when I came in 2019. So trends move very, very fast here. People are very obsessed with them, whether it's new songs, new clothes, new styles, new haircuts from the latest TV show. And yeah, things are trending in the US, of course, and it depends on where you live in the US, but it just takes longer for us to go through trends, and they tend to have a little bit longer lifespan than here in South Korea, where something can be popular and then literally like in a week everyone's doing something else, or a certain kind of food is really popular, or a certain kind of experience is the experience everyone needs to do, or the new Instagram photo spot, and then bam, the next month it's like nobody cares about that. It's a completely different thing. So it kind of feeds into that fast pace of lifestyle that I mentioned in step one, but taken to trends, it can be kind of almost disorienting, where you're like, whoa, this is like a different country than even 2 months ago when I showed up. What's going on here? Like, my clothes aren't even in style anymore. So it's definitely very interesting and very different than what I'm used to. And then the fifth biggest culture shock in South Korea is, I would say, the ease of transportation and the emphasis on walkability of things and getting able to get to places without needing a car. Obviously in the US, I own a car. If you don't own a car in the US, it's basically impossible for you to travel places unless you walk, or you live in a very large urban center like New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago. They have subway systems. Not always the safest, but they have subway systems. But, in the US, basically anyone wants to get anywhere, you own a car because it's just so big and expansive. In South Korea, yeah, maybe in the rural areas, yeah, you need vehicles. But if you're living in the urban centers, there's really no need for a car. Everything is walkable. There's subway stations everywhere. Transportation like Ubers are very cheap. it's just a very walkable and pedestrian friendly area, and I'm just not used to that for coming from the US, where everything is about driving, and there's a million gas stations everywhere, and everything is built on drive-throughs. That's just kind of how things work in the US. But in Korea, and especially in Seoul, everything's walkable. Everything you can get to. There's a Starbucks literally every 5 feet, and it's a society built on convenience, walkability, and productivity, and it's just a totally different style than the US. So those were my 5 biggest culture shocks from moving to South Korea. If you've been there before, you've lived here before, and you want to share your experiences, leave a comment down below, and I'd like to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time.